Good morning, everybody. Hello.
Good morning.
I need to hear louder. Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you. Okay. Pleasure for me to be here. Thanks, VCCircle, and for inviting me here. It's great to kick off the session with digital transformation, and I have a distinguished panel cutting across sectors, right from enterprise, HP enterprise, to retail, Arvind Brands, to Mohan, who heads Great Lakes Management Institute, Great Learning, has been an investor, venture capitalist. So I think we can get nice multiple perspective. So let me start with some thoughts of my own before I go to this. One, I generally have a very healthy disregard for buzzwords like digital transformation, disruption, innovativeness, and all of that stuff. Okay, right? So one of the questions for the panel really is it really just a jargon? What really are we talking about here? Yes, I know things are getting computerized, we are using more of computers, people are using smartphones, we have geolocation, we have Google Maps. So, those are all fine. But fundamentally, other than trying to automate stuff, what are we really talking about? Because we are talking about, whether if you take education as an example, you still have colleges, you still have institutes, you still have students, you still have learning. After that, they go and take up a job and work. Okay, right? That's it. Similarly, take Arvind retail, brands like US Polo, brands like Gap, brands like Arrow. It's still a physical shirt, garment. You have a garment, you stitch it, you have design, you make it, and you and I wear it, right? So where is this entire concept of digital transformation? Yes, lots of things are getting computerized. So I think digital transformation per se means very different things to different people. What really is digital transformation? Is it only a buzzword beyond the buzzword? One. Two, are we talking about really automating, changing some of the back-end processes within companies? Like we had from manual to we had ERP, we had systems and processes. Are we talking about that? Or the digital transformation really impact the consumer? May not be in all sectors or industries, but does it make a difference to the consumer? Does it make a difference to you and me? Okay. I think that is a critical question. We have also seen and heard about digital transformation not working in companies and in sectors. Why it doesn't work? Are there any prerequisites? Are there specific reasons which we can learn from why it fails? I think we will cover all of these aspects with the eminent panelists. So with that, I'm going to go directly to you, Prasad. You have you are with HP Enterprises. You are really like consultant or go-to person of sorts for corporates when they come to you for ideas on digital transformation. You have been working on cutting-edge stuff like edge computing, like blockchain for world's leading corporates. So would love to hear from you. What do you think is this digital transformation about? And specifically, if you can take an example, if you can name it, it's fine. How it has affected a consumer experience, a user experience for each one of us in any of the places that we go to. When we were talking earlier, we were talking about doing work for a stadium, how digital transformation has transformed the experience of the viewer or the consumer when they goes to a stadium. Would love to hear about that from you.
Thanks. First of all, thanks for inviting me to participate in this panel. Okay. I think, Ganesh, you touched upon multiple aspects in terms of what is a digital transformation. Is it is it just on back-end automation? Is it kind of affecting the consumers? I think it's all. And then I use a quote saying is like, okay, in this world, or particularly in a digital transformation space, there is nothing like a one-size-fits-all. It depending upon the companies, what they're trying to do, what they're achieving, it might have a different kind of a meaning and a different definitions for what is a digital transformation. And then I do come from a technology company, predominantly and technology background, but I'd say digital transformation is not just about moving it onto your digital technologies, but it is more fundamental than that. It needs a lot of changes in terms of the company's culture. It's basically the way in which the companies operate, the people in the company behave and operate aspect. It's a lot about the business processes. Jaideep talked about some of those business processes and how the companies are trying to embrace those processes, right? And then it's also about like that, okay, how can these technologies be applied to make some of these user experience much smoother, at the same time create a new business opportunities, and also look at in terms of like how can I optimize to add value into the bottom lines, right? So since you asked about an example, so let me just pick a couple of examples. So one of the things I think we were talking is about enhancing or enriching the customer experience. So one of the projects we as a HPE did is for a large football stadium. So I'm talking football in the context of US. So it's basically maybe a rugby in a European region, right? It's a Levi's stadium. So what we worked along with our Intelligent Edge division, which is Aruba's location-based services. So we provided a kind of an mobile applications to the consumers wherein which they could download the application, walk into the stadium, so they greeted as soon as they enter into a stadium depending upon their location. They're provided a path into their seats. It is basically the navigation inside the stadium, how do you go there and all those things. And then anytime the game is going on, some of these highlights or some of those kind of a thing, it's zoomed in, streamed on, repeated on the mobile devices kind of a thing. It's not just that. Let's assume like it provides an enrichment in terms of how an user can experience the game. It also provided opportunity for them to order the food, okay? Be it a soft drinks or be it some kind of a food, you can just click of a button, order it. So it goes into the right shop who is providing it. They know exactly where is your location. It gets delivered onto your location. All the payment happens automatically, right?
Just one question: who pays for this? Is it that the organizer? I'm assuming for the consumers it's free, but is it
yes. So in this particular case, the stadium. So basically, stadium is increasing their revenue by order of magnitudes. Basically, they are able to sell more value-added kind of a services. If you really look at food and beverage kind of a thing, that is a significant value addition in terms of their top line.
Yeah, I think that's a great example of digital transformation impacting the consumer. I mean, I can relate to it when I go and see the matches and all that. One of the things that I hesitate to consume those items is because you have to leave your seat, you have to miss the game, you have to go there, you have to come back, the seat may get taken in case it's not reserved, all of that stuff. If you make it like the way Uber Eats or Swiggy has done, yep. If you can sit and at that time just do that,
exactly.
These sales will go up substantially.
Exactly. We are trying to replicate that in a multiple other gaming areas and the stadiums and those things. So that's one kind of an example. So quickly touch upon in terms of an automation aspects, right? So there are a lot of companies today. I'll take an example. If we go into a restaurant, I think we all demand it need to have a big list of offers for us in terms of like the food choice points. Maybe we all want it to be like delivered at a much quicker speed and the pace. Also at the reasonable cost and price kind of a thing, right? Traditionally, like in the large enterprises, the IT thing, I think now with the digital thing, people expect even their IT to deliver that kind of an options. So if I need to do some kind of a business or probably an analytic, I need to go just with the click of a button, can I get all my IT resources delivered just in time for me to do whatever the operation it is required? So the whole world or the large enterprises predominantly are trying to move more towards service-oriented or consumable kind of an IT kind of an environment. So some of these technologies in terms of digital automation and the technologies in terms of automating how these things could be served. So there is a technology, at least from the last decade and ago, so people are moving more towards the cloud, but not all the enterprises, all the workloads could be moved in there because of some maybe a confidential requirements or whatever the regulatory needs and all those things. How can we ensure all those things could be done in a hybrid kind of an environment? Some of those might fit more into a cloud, some of them may be an on-prem, but provide everything as more about a consumable kind of a services. So that's another thing we work with the large enterprises to make it more about the hybrid IT. And then we do have a best practice, it's a good practice arm, so within which we come and then consult and then try to help in terms of how to automate and then make it more about a hybrid IT, which is a consumption-based model. Okay.
Great. I think that's a great perspective that you shared, Prasad. Piyush, now going on to you, okay, right? A couple of questions. One is, traditionally we have seen in organizations, IT was seen as a back office function, normally in the basement. When I started my career, it was called the EDP manager, Electronic Data Processing Manager, and the primary job was to process payroll and financial accounts. Okay, right? And we did have some data centers processing share applications and all that stuff. Okay, right? Purely service-based function. And instead of doing manually large records, you could do it on the computer. Instead of manual accounting or manual payroll, you could do that. Of course, from then on, we have seen the evolution of CIO role, evolution of CIO/CTO role, even in non-technology organizations across the board. We have seen it becoming more and more important. People saying that Jaideep talked about it, how it is used by companies as a competitive advantage to stay relevant, to be able to innovate, to handle market. Okay, how do you see this digital transformation? It's one more buzzword in the continuum of people invented by people like yourselves to stay more glamorous and earn larger and larger packages, or is it really making a difference in the organization setup? I'm trying to be slightly provocative here. That's one. And two is, would love to hear from you in something like retail, okay, right, which has been very traditional and very standard, other than, the pant shirt has not really changed, okay, right? I'm 56 years old. I've been wearing similar stuff throughout, okay, right? The brands try a lot to entice me, but it's there. Where do you see digital transformation from the retail company organization and also at the consumer end? Would love to hear it.
Sure, and I think that's a very pertinent question, and every conference that you go to today, digital is the word. People beat that subject to death. You hear so many different varied understanding. I will kind of give you the way we see things at Arvind, and what I've gathered is there are few changes which has happened from the era that you talked about, from a EDP manager to moving to the age in which it was all about connecting databases, connecting processes, automating processes, and which was the wave 2 of the digitization, as we call it. What is different today is there are a set of capabilities which have a direct impact on two things. And I come from a consumer-led company. In the way you give experience to a consumer, and then the way you can define a business model of an organization. Now, the way I see digital transformation is, how does an organization look at using technology to disrupt? When I use the word disrupt, I said change the model so that it is more consumer friendly, and you try to serve the consumer in a very, very different. I will give you a very simple example. So we produce about, let's say, 3.5 crore pieces of garments every year. Now, what is happening is, in the past few years, what people are asking and demanding very, very loudly is that one size does not fit all. So our sizes, let's say, assortment has actually increased so significantly in the last few years that it is very difficult for us to manage the inventory and manage a lot of kind of subsequent processes around it. How do you give a customer a choice? So, for example, if somebody walks into an Arrow store and says that, I like that white shirt, but I don't like the button on that shirt. How can you customize that? Now, these are customer choices which are possible in today's world if we were to use a digital technology platform. And we have created one, what we call as Create, which is a customized, ready-to-wear platform, in which you come in, we have your size already done. You come in, you say that, okay, I like this fabric, I like this trims, I like this, and we get it stitched over there. Now, this was always there, right? The roadside tailor was always there. What has changed is, how can you do it with precision, with a very different experience, and do it at scale? And that is what digital disruption means to us.
And how is it being received today? Is this the idea, or is it being implemented? Is it Is it creating a bottom line impact for the organization, or it's more customer satisfaction?
It is more to experiment that idea as to where the cost benefit lies. So you can go too far to customize things and then make a huge loss on it, or you can actually make it a very, very generic offering and not give the customer choices. So there is a sweet spot that we are trying to understand as to where that sweet spot is, so that you have the right economics of scale as well as the customer choice, and you balance those and how you are able to fulfill the needs of the customer. That is how we see things. Second point, what has changed is, earlier digital as a theme was never part of a business strategy or an organization strategy. Today, if any organization is not putting digital as a boardroom strategy, I think people know where they are. I think the previous presentation was talking about that. And that is a big, big shift. And so the role of a CIO actually has been elevated to advisor to the CEO, and the CEO has to drive the digital journey, and CIO is just an enabler in that journey in itself. And that is a big, big change that we are seeing. So what does it mean for practitioners like us? So when I go to the team back who is working on all these projects and say, how do you differentiate between what is a digital initiative and what is a non-digital initiative? And there are three things that we see which have changed in the past few years. One is, there are existence of three broad technologies which are there. One is obviously the software part of it. The second is the advancement of the algorithms, which is the AI, machine learning, and all those subsequent technologies. And the third is the power of the sensors. Digital transformation projects, if you see, have to do with at least two of these to create an impact on the customer or impact on the business model. And that is how we differentiate between a digital initiative and a, let's say, ERP implementation or a CRM implementation and so on and so forth, which is anyway needed. But you will not be able to create a differentiation or a competitive advantage for your organization until we have two out of the three, the software, algorithm, and the sensor part of it, so that you are able to disrupt your model and provide a very, very different customer experience.
Okay, thanks. Great perspective. One question, how do you get your budgets for the digital transformation passed? Because one of the biggest challenges always in IT automation, in the traditional EDP manager or CEO's challenge has been, would they be able to get the budget for modernization or for automation? Okay, right? And whereas the same money spent on marketing would help in getting more revenues, or cutting the cost would increase the bottom line and therefore the profit, whereas these transformative stuff would take more time before it gets reflects in the bottom line. Okay, right? How easy now it is in today's world to be able to get the budgets passed.
And so I will tell you how we are tackling that. Is that if digital as a budget is given to IT department, I think it never works. And that is what we realized in the first 1.5 years. What it has to happen is, so for example, there is a marketing and a CRM team which is there. You have to make sure that you influence the key people there to drive digital initiatives, and then you provide support towards that. So the budget is owned by, so let's say the marketing team will be spending, let's say, 100 crores on various kinds of advertisement. You provide them avenues saying that, look, this is where the split is between the traditional marketing, the digital channels and digital which are there. What is the trend that you're seeing? Why don't you increase it on the digital side of it? And then how do you create those platforms so that you are able to do that? And that is how we have to look at budgeting. Budgeting as a digital initiative has to be with the business. If it has to be given and said that, okay, go IT department, implement a digital transformation program, this is the kitty of money, I think it will never happen. And that is one of the learnings that we have got.
No, I think that's a good perspective for all of us. I'm sure the people in the audience realize it. It's part of business. It's a part of the way the business owner is actually using digital for his job and not as a budget given to a service department or admin department or a computer department. Thank you. Mohan, coming on to you. Okay, right. So I touched upon it in education. Okay, right. You run one of the premium management institutes. In terms of using digital transformation in the student life cycle or education life cycle, both for back office and front office, how has your experience and learning been? You also deal with much younger customers or which is students in this case, who are more tech savvy, digital savvy today's generation. So how have you seen the journey in terms of incorporating digital initiatives, technology, and what we call as digital transformation into this, both for running your organization as well as from student? And second, I want to touch upon your experience as an investor. One of the challenges that all of us have is you've seen the Flipkart valuation, Ola valuation, and all of that stuff. The B2C businesses have attracted a lot of investor interest, unicorn valuations, and all of those. The moment you talk about B2B business, people providing digital transformation services are helping organizations, traditional brands do digital transformation. Is there a space for these kind of startups to come in? Will it get funded? What is the future after the entire B2C run-up? Is this the next wave of startup, more B2B, enabling organizations to become more digital? So these are two distinct questions.
Thanks, Ganesh. First, thanks to all of you for having me here. Let me answer both of your questions in order. So starting from where Piyush left off, what has changed in the last few years is how easy and cheaper it has become to actually gather and use data to take decisions. And that is what is enabling a lot of these things. So when we say, when he mentioned about sensors, when he mentioned about algorithms, it's basically all of it is working on data. That is really what has changed. And I'll use examples from both the learning area, where I spend most of my time, and then from a couple of other areas as well. So at Great Lakes, we do two things. Great Lakes is a business school, and then we have an online and hybrid learning platform called Great Learning, where we are helping working professionals at all ages enhance their competencies and prepare themselves and succeed and thrive in this digital economy. Right? So there our goal is to ensure that high quality learning can happen at large scale. And we all know that it is very hard to have a large number of high quality faculty. Therefore, the only way to ensure quality across scale, we have found, is to use technology. And I'll give you a few examples of how we are doing that, internally as well as to help learners. One of the things we do, for instance, is that because we are able to track learner behavior so well, a simple example, we have an app, we know where they are, so attendance is automatically taken, right? So that's a very, very simple example. We use the app for automatically taking attendance. So no more proxies, no more lying around where you are, all of that is suddenly gone, right? We are able to track their entire behavior through the learning life cycle, and within 2 months in a 1-year program, we are able to predict where they are likely to fail by observing their behavior. And that enables us to actually intervene much ahead of time and recommend specific things that they should do to improve their learning journey and to actually handhold them to do that, right? And this ensures that even for working professionals who are full-time working in businesses, have their busy lives, our completion rate on our programs is 90% plus. Another thing that we do is we've completely automated our operations. Right, so we run our classes across 6 different cities and across thousands of learners, involving hundreds of faculty. All of that is completely automated through the use of technology. So the people that we have can actually focus on learner success. Right, we run a massive scheduling operation which is completely automated. Third example. Using the data that we have about people's backgrounds, their learning behavior, and then what they do in the future, we are able to give guidance to people on their career. Earlier, when people ask the question, this is my background, what should I do? Usually the answer they get is from their colleague or from their uncle or from their, from their relative, whatever, right? Now we are able to actually do this based on data. We have data on what have people done, how have they learnt in various areas, what are their strengths and weaknesses, and then what have they gone on to do in the future. Based on that, we can give data-driven recommendations on what might be a more suitable career path for them, given their stage of career, right? So these are some examples where we are actually able to use data to give the right kind of inputs at the right time and achieve transformational outcomes in the learning process. Right now, I also can share with you a few things that others are doing that I'm aware of, right? And where there's been this transformational impact. There's a very large company, for example, called Olam. Many of you may know about it. It's one of the world's largest commodities producer and commodities company. And they work with many farmers all over the world, Africa, Latin America, India, so forth. They are able to use images, satellite images, to figure out at any given place if there is an insect or pest, pests that have affected any crop, right? By actually using processing of images, satellite images, and intervene, go to the farmers that they work with and inform them that this is happening, and actually go even a step further and recommend to them what they should use. They've just piloted another project where, in addition to recommending, they're actually delivering these things using drones as well. The whole process is actually very automated. And closer to home, even Mahindra is doing this. Yadip earlier talked about Mahindra's example. Farmers who are a large customer base for them can take pictures of their crop, upload it into an app that Mahindra has put together, and Mahindra will get back to them about what is the issue with their crop and what they should do. Right, so a couple of examples from the agriculture domain that this is happening. Right. Another example that I can give you, that you look at it from B2B area you talked about. There's a very large elevator company called ThyssenKrupp. It's a German company, right? They have sensors fitted in all of their elevators across the world, and these sensors are giving data real time about how these elevators are functioning, and they are able to actually predict when there is a risk of failure of any elevator and therefore do preventive maintenance. Right? And this is happening across many industries. And this is exactly what Piyush talked about, a combination of sensors. So you can either collect data through sensors, mobile phones, even on the internet, as more and more services are going on the internet. So you can collect what is happening and then analyze it and then take action based on that. In the process, improving operational efficiency and improving customer experience. And all of this ultimately translates into better business outcomes. So that's the first. Second thing you talked about is in terms of B2B, right? So I learned this from VCCircle itself, that apparently more than 50% of all investments that have happened in the last 12 months were all B2B. Right? So, for the first time in the last 3 years, this is
but Mohan, just to present a counter argument, that is because of the slowdown that happened, B2C went down, okay, right? So it's not really a reflection of larger B2B. The B2C flavor got slightly lost because of the down rounds, because of the challenges of high burn and some of the hedge funds running away from India, taking a backstage and all of that stuff. So
that notwithstanding, I have actually seen that there's been a substantial improvement in increase in B2B businesses and very high quality business. I'll give you a very simple example where I'm one of the angel investors, right? So, for fashion, you have to model, you put models in clothes and you take their pictures and, so you have to do photo shoots and all of those, right? And you can only put so many, outfits on models in any photo shoot, right? And it's a time consuming process. You have to pay the models, you have to pay photographers, you have to do all of that. So this company does something very simple. It takes high quality images of models. It takes images of the clothes, puts the clothes on the models. Okay, this is basically a computer vision problem, right? Now you can actually create a model wearing outfit for every outfit. You don't have to select anymore, right? And the cost has dropped by 1,000 times, right? This is a B2B business. Who are the clients of this company? All the brands. Right? That's just one example, and there are so many examples like that.
So you are basically bullish on, if people here or outside this room were to start B2B businesses, helping companies and brands and corporates implement digital transformative initiatives, You think there would be enough appetite from investors to...
Oh, there already is, big time. Yeah,
Great.
the thing is, because consumer is visible, that's where the first wave of things happened, right? But then as people realized what is possible, there is a huge wave of actually transformation in the back end that is happening right now.
Okay. And just to further amplify, these will be good businesses, not be very high burn businesses, may not go to unicorn kind of valuation, but it will be valuable businesses, more capital efficient than the typical B2C, and will be good return for investors. Is that right?
Yeah, so this company that I'm talking about, they just raised $500,000 and it's already generating revenues, and if it wants, it can actually break even right now, but it's growing a lot, so it's not break even yet.
Wow, that's very encouraging to hear. Prasad, coming back to you, I mean, you work on blockchain. Now, this is something that is, when you talk about digital transformation, the latest is cryptocurrency and blockchain as a, forget cryptocurrency for a minute, blockchain as an enabler, almost like internet kind of disruption and usage is this. Honestly speaking, I really don't know whether it's all full hype or does it really help in organizations without revealing confidential work that you're doing. When would you actually see blockchain being used by the corporates or industrial houses in India? What would really be the use case, if any? Or are we too early and we have to really wait for it to prove itself to be enabler? People don't question now use of internet, use of email, use of apps to run business. Is blockchain going to become like that ever?
Yeah, it's a great question, right? So yes, within HP we think of blockchain as 3 stages or 3 different waves. So you touched upon the cryptocurrencies, we call it as a wave 1. So wherein which people use blockchain as a currency to exchange the value. Okay. But predominantly what we call the enterprise adoption of the blockchain as a wave 2 and a wave 3. Some of that I think in our earlier presentation Jaideep also touched upon. So let me pick it up a couple of examples which might be more closer to you, Piyush. One of the companies in the Netherlands, actually they are developing a solution using the sensors, which is NFC sensors. It's a near-field communication kind of a sensors, which is kind of a tamper-proof. It cannot be really replicated kind of a thing. And putting it on the branded products, be it clothes, be it shoes, any of those consumable branded products, and ensuring its complete life cycle from the day it is basically the manufactured into where it went into a wholesaler, to a retailers, and to that whole journey or the ownership of that product, and capturing all that information on the blockchain. So it's kind of a combination of the technologies in terms of sensors and a blockchains. So what it is providing them is like, okay, so one of the key things, I think we talked about the trust, and the blockchain enables the transactions in a trustless environment. So that is one of the key things. And then the other thing which I need to talk about is basically it enables the transactions in a completely decentralized fashion without having any intermediaries. So I'll talk about that in another example. So because of that, and then it is a tamper-proof. So it's not easy for anybody to go and then change whatever it is already in a ledger without getting a consensus from all the parties who are involved in that, right? So because of this, what they are trying to do is they have a product. I don't know what is the impact which is already yet, but the product enables the brand manufacturers to put up these NFC chips and their complete life cycle of the product from the time it is actually manufactured and then it went out kind of a consumers. Even they cover the secondary market aspect. Everything gets stored on a blockchain.
Why would you need a blockchain for that? I mean, I would store it normally. It's not something that's...
Yeah, the key thing which comes up is the combination of the 2 technologies and sensor and this one. So there is a huge gray market in these branded products in terms of counterfeiting. So
the integrity of the data that is there and tamper-proofness would be...
Yes, so there is a grey market in a multiple ways. It is basically a secondary market, it is a grey market, so this manifests in a multiple different scenarios. And then it is estimated is kind of like the several $1 billion kind of an industry in the counterfeit market. It is not just in the apparels. It's true in the like automobiles and all those things. So there are, and then I think he also touched upon in the foods. So US FDA is actually asking the tracking of the manufactured medicines from the place of the composition of those components to ensure like that, okay, there is nothing which is counterfeited or you have a low quality kind of the compositions. How do you ensure it from all the ways? Okay. Closer to here, I think there have been examples in terms of organic food products. How do we ensure like okay, that is really a genuine organics and then there is nothing which has happened in terms of adulteration? Okay. So a lot of these falls into a classic case in terms of a supply chain. How do you ensure there is no counterfeiting or there is no adulteration depending upon these various industries and ensure the consumer gets the right product, what they are really willing to pay for it and buy? Okay. One kind of an example.
Great. Thank you very much. Thanks for the audience for the questions, and thank you all the panelists.